That's right. It is 2 o'clock p.m. Central Time. And here we are, you guys. I love when we get the opportunity to be able to talk about the nuts and bolts of running our business. And this is one of the nuts and bolts that we need to really think about when it comes to our business. Video is the number one way that people are getting found in their businesses. And I was just chatting with Sam, who I'm going to be talking with a lot today during this live, because video, you have no idea, like the type of relationship that you can begin to build with people because you are on video. And there's so many wonderful things that you can do. But one of the toughest things and one of the toughest aspects of all of this is the editing piece of it. So you come up with your content, you've got a great video, but then there are just some editing things that you need to do to really make it special and pop and be something that you are proud to have people watch and you feel, confident sharing with the entire world. Because in essence, that's what you're doing, right? You're letting the whole world know about you and your tutoring services. So today I've invited Sam Dimercurio, who is Ashley's husband, for those of you who know Ashley, and he actually helped her right off in the beginning. He helped her with editing her videos while she was working on other aspects of her business. And I just think it's really awesome when spouses can come together and support in this kind of way. And you may not have that in your life where you have somebody who can just do the editing for you. And so we're going to be talking today about different tips and tricks that you can do to be able to edit your video. And then what if you don't feel like editing a video? What can you do? So we're going to talk all that today. So, hey, Sam, welcome.
Thank you, Joanne, for inviting me. I'm glad to be here.
Well, we are going to have fun over the next hour. And so I want people to really get to know who you are. So how did you get started in this whole editing videos online thing?
Yeah, well, actually, it was funny because I started more in the live streaming side and then came into video editing. But I started probably around 2 years ago, and I just saw a lot of people doing a lot of stuff online. Some of it related to gaming, and Ashley was also involved with Beachbody at the time. And so a lot of them were doing live streams. And, we started learning that. But one of the things that I realized with a lot of these videos was that sometimes the content, when it was live or when it was unedited, didn't give you a very good impression of the person as a professional. And so I started really looking into the editing side of it because I was like, well, video is so important. It's one of the, the number one ways that you get found. And how could you create a better first impression, so to speak?
Right.
Yeah. And so I just started, editing videos for fun. I have a couple of YouTube channels, and I did Ashley's videos for her YouTube channel, and it's taken off from there. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So what are some of the things that a tutor should think about when they're creating their video?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good question. And I think that's probably the linchpin question if you want to kind of think about it that way, because video. So I'm in digital marketing. That's what I do for my job. And video is so important because a lot of people don't realize this, but YouTube is actually the #2 search engine, right behind Google. Right. Yeah. So when you ask somebody, okay, well, how do you go out and find something if you have a question? You go to Google or you go to YouTube. Right. But there's a lot of content up there on YouTube. And especially for tutors, you need to look professional, right? Like that's one of the things I think that unfortunately sometimes people still think of tutors as like homework helpers or not as professional as a teacher, which is the furthest thing from the truth. And so when you're thinking about video, you need to be thinking about that. But more importantly, you need to be thinking about how you can add value to the people that are watching the video, because you're basically asking them to give you their time, right? And time is the most valuable thing that we have. So if you're asking them, hey, I want you to give me your time to watch my video, and potentially multiple videos, and then go to my web, you got to give them something of value. And, so that could be as much, as little as, 3 tips to help your child read better, or, 3 tips for, middle school math readiness, right? Or whatever it might be. Or it could just be some entertainment. Hey, I was doing this with my, tutoring students, and this was really funny. And, I can give some specific examples in a little bit, but always be thinking about, how can I provide value to the person watching my video? And don't worry about trying to think, how can I sell my business or position my business? Just think, what can I do to give them something that's valuable? Because if you do that, and that can simply be a laugh, but whatever it is, that will get them to come back for more content.
Yeah. So, and I think too, like, even the way that they even like set up the area where they're going to be doing it. The very first video that I had created was actually down in my basement. And it was very dark, and I thought I sounded fantastic. And then I had some people take a look at it, and they're like, you look like you're in the dark. I'm like, I am. I'm in my basement. Like, what am I supposed to do? Like, you need better lighting. And I'm like, well, how do you do lighting? Like, how do you do that? And so there were like a lot of little pieces that I had to learn in order to make my videos
definitely
something people would actually want to watch. Like, it didn't like the way that it actually looks, the way that it sounds, those things are really important, or people will tune out and leave.
They'll immediately leave. Yeah.
Which is a total bummer, because that's not what we want to happen.
Right.
So what advice do you have about like lighting and audio for videos?
Yeah. So audio, but believe it or not, the way your video sounds is the most important thing, even beyond what it looks like, because people will forgive a messy video, but they won't forgive bad audio. And so the first thing you need to consider is your audio. Now, you don't need to go out and get, an expensive mic. I mean, I have a, Blue Yeti microphone here. It was like, I think it's like 150 retail. You don't need to go out and do that, right? You can use a headset. You can use your smartphone, even if you have just like the little headphones that go with it, because smartphones are designed to have good audio quality, right? Because it's a phone. But so you don't necessarily need to worry about a great microphone, but a couple of things that you can do, obviously make sure that you're in a quiet location, right? So if you're filming a video, some people don't have a whole lot of choice, right? And some people live like in a city, and there's, fire trucks going by, and there's dogs barking, and that is what it is. But do everything you can to try to minimize that, because I'll tell you, nothing bothers me more than trying to hear somebody and there's distracting audio in the background.
Right.
I mean, simple things, but sometimes people don't think about this. Like, don't have the radio playing in the background or your TV. Not only because it's distracting, but because you could end up, if you put it on YouTube, you could end up with a copyright thing on there.
Yes.
If, the latest pop song is playing on the radio. So, don't do that. And sometimes it can be hard, but you got to think about things like fans and heaters as well.
Yes. My nemesis.
Well, yeah, exactly. Right. I mean, so like, I'm in my basement, and we have like our water heater right above us, and we have a dehumidifier. And so like stuff will turn on all of a sudden.
Yes.
But you can get into advanced things. Like with OBS, I use noise filters to kind of get rid of some of that stuff. But for the beginning person just creating videos, just do your best to try to make the audio as good as possible. And then really lighting is the other thing, because again, you don't need a fancy camera. Webcams are okay, but if you can't afford any of that, most smartphones, at least new smartphones, have good cameras. You want to use the back camera if you can instead of the front camera, but still, and frequently you can't see what you're doing. So, you may need to like rig a weird setup where you have a mirror behind you, or you have somebody else help you get it set up. But lighting is the most important thing when it comes to good video. I'm on I think a Logitech C920 webcam. It's okay right now, but I look pretty crisp because I've got these big 4 studio lights, and you don't have to go that, extravagant or whatever, but you can go on YouTube, you can go on Amazon, you can look at these little lighting kits, But as long as you have some good front illumination and good side illumination with daylight bulbs instead of like a yellow bulb, that's going to help. That's going to make a huge difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And then the last thing is really just like, tidy up your space. Like if you're doing it in your bedroom or whatever, don't, make your bed, don't have, a bunch of clutter in the background. Or if you can't avoid that, put something up behind you so that it blocks it.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, you guys notice I have a new little background here because forever I had just my green screen and it was just bugging me. I hate to have like something green back there when I'm doing like these lives. So now I just bought like this little, thing that I can hang on up when I do my lives on YouTube. And it just looks a little bit better than, having that green screen back there, which was making me go, ugh.
I know. See, that's what I'm rocking right now, but I turn it off with OBS. So
that's right. With OBS, you can totally do that. You're also the OBS genius, I've heard.
Well, I don't know if I'm a genius, but I've failed at OBS enough times over the last few years that I know a few tricks. So
that's good. That's good. Yeah. In fact, and Victoria is in the house, and she said Sam is an awesome editor and coach. So she's definitely giving you the kudos there. You have helped her so much with the live streaming. You've been super patient, and I think that that for us, that's one of the huge things that we need somebody who's going to be patient with us to guide us and coach us through like what is it that we need to do so that we can do it. And then of course your lovely wife is in the house as well. And she said that she couldn't have set up her YouTube channel without your help.
Well, thanks. They've been great. And yeah, I mean, Victoria's got OBS down now. She's like, she knows what she's doing. So that's awesome. But yeah, I was glad that I was able to help her out.
Yeah. And when you can, like, because you already know like the ins and outs. And that's the beauty of working with somebody who already knows what they're doing, because they can already say, oh, no, you don't want to do that. Try this, do this. And then they do it. And you're like, oh, set up, good to go. Yay.
Yeah, exactly.
which makes it a lot more fun. All right. So when it comes to, we've kind of talked about like the area and the way they should be shooting it. So I've got a question for you. Do you think that a tutor should kind of script out what they want to say ahead of time or just speak from their heart?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And with an unsatisfying answer, the answer is it depends. And the reason I say that is because it really depends on your style and what you're able to do. Like you do a really good job at scripted videos because the way they come out, the way their cadence and your energy and whatever that works. I can't do scripted. I try it and it just sounds terrible. And so, but at the same time, I need some direction because otherwise I'll ramble, and then that's an editing nightmare because then you got to go in and cut out a bunch of stuff. So
yeah.
But it depends, because if it's a topic that you can speak to with passion and with energy and with excitement, if you're reading it on a teleprompter or a script or whatever, that's fine. If you can kind of infuse that, then that's great. If you can't, if you're trying a scripted video and it sounds like an infomercial or it's just boring, you watch it back and you're like, ugh. Try it. Yeah. Ad lib, try it off the cuff, because the thing is you can always do multiple takes, like you're not doing it live. Yeah,
exactly. Like we are right now.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And so for me, I've told people that I've worked with, like when they're like, oh, I can't get this. And I'm like, if you really have a specific line that you want to deliver in a certain way and you mess it up 2, 3, 4 times, who cares? Keep recording it. Eventually you're going to get a good one and we just splice it in,
Yeah, so exactly. Yeah. And it really does. It depends on what you are better at. So if you're better at speaking from the heart, I say go for it, right? If you could just like turn that camera on and talk, go for it. Most people can't do that either. So you got to plan it out like at some point, like just kind of, it doesn't have to be like completely scripted, but have an idea, like even have an outline. That's going to help. Yeah, I like doing the scripted because I like to do one take, be done, and go.
Yep. Yeah. And believe me, like that saves a huge amount of time, especially if you're, doing the creating and the editing and whatever. But I would say, you know, the other thing is like, don't hesitate to change it up, and also be receptive to feedback. So if you're doing scripted videos, let's say you put them up on the channel and people are like, you know, they're just not feeling it. And they give you specific feedback like, you know, hey, it sounds scripted, I don't like it. Think about that. Or if you're like, no, I like scripted and I think I'm going to keep doing this, but I just got to improve. Just practice, practice, do a whole bunch of it. Even if you don't put it up on the channel, just get in front of your camera, record something, watch it back, do it again. Like eventually you're going to get it down, and then, you know, then you'll get it. And then I would say the last thing I would say is if you have specific content that you have to present, like facts and statistics, or you need to present accurate information, that might be a better idea to do a scripted video. That way you've got the information accurately portrayed in your video. And it's a little less important to have the high energy and whatever. If you can do both, perfect. But in some videos, it's more important to accurately give the information, especially if you're doing like math tutoring or videos or whatever. You know, you don't want to mess it up because you're ad-libbing, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. So really, they need to figure out what is going to work for that particular video.
Yeah.
What fits best with their style. Try it a few different times. Try it with a script. Try it without a script.
Yep.
And then see what you get. You know, in the beginning, nobody turns on the camera and just goes on first take and is perfect, and then they upload it to YouTube.
Right.
Definitely have people look at it before you even get to that stage, so that they can just say, yeah, is this ready to go? Is this publishable? Or what could I improve to make it better? And that is definitely going to, I think it's going to, it just allows you to grow in your videography over time.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
So yeah, it's definitely different for everyone that is out there. Are there any good free editing tools?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously, if you want to do your own editing, but obviously you're not ready to kind of, you know, spend the money on, you know, a full-fledged editor. If you're on PC, on specifically on Windows 10, it's kind of hidden, but it has a free video editor within the Photos app. And it's actually pretty decent. You can, you know, for basic videos, you just need to trim it a little bit. Maybe you want to put in like a little title or, you know, a motion graphic or something. I think it even connects with like the little 3D tool that Windows has. It's kind of neat, and it'll work just fine. If you're on a Mac, you can use iMovie, which is fine. And again, it's pretty basic, but it'll get the job done. You know, if you're not looking to do really sort of high quality, high grade, you know, going into all the color correcting and, you know, audio mixing and all that. Those two are fine. And those most likely you can find on your PC or your Mac. There's a couple of app-based ones. I don't personally like editing on an app, but you can. I think iPhone has, well, they have iMovie, but you can also do, I think it's LumaFusion or KineMaster, maybe. You could look them up. They may not be totally free, but usually app-based ones are not too bad. And then the two that I kind of recommend outside of those, if you have your computer's not great, but maybe you have a decent internet connection, there's a website called Panzoid.com, Panzoid. And it's actually got a free editor. It's also, it kind of started out as a way to make like motion intros and outros and stuff. But it does have an online editor that you can use. And if you want a piece of software, Shotcut is actually fairly decent. That one is good for Mac, Windows, and Linux. It's pretty basic, but it actually has some of the more advanced tools. So you can go pretty far with it before you might need to upgrade to something like an Adobe Premiere. So those are the free ones. There are a lot of other editors out there that are fairly cheap, that are pretty affordable and that can do a good job. But if you're just starting out, especially if you're on Windows 10, look at the, I think it's just, you can search for, I think, video editor, and you'll find it. Or if you're on an older version of Windows, you can still find Windows Movie Maker, which is kind of the same thing. And then iMovie for Mac users.
Yeah, it's great to start. I mean, and in the beginning too, it's really great to play with some of those tools because they are so easy to use. They're not very complicated. There's not a lot of tech you need to know in order to do it. I remember I actually did start. My very first videos were on my original iPhone, not the one I have now. But I would use iMovie to do all of the editing inside of there, and I would post right to YouTube right from there. And I love that. That's not the tools that I'm using today, but those worked for what I did, and those videos are still out there today, and they still get found, which is incredible. That's the beautiful part of creating videos, because your content that you create doesn't go anywhere unless you take it off, and then I'm sure somebody can still find it somehow. But you know, it's really awesome that, you know, people can find this content. We were talking earlier, Sam and I, and he's like, yeah, when I type in your name, he's like, you're one of the first people that comes up when it comes to this stuff. And I was like, yeah, if anything that deals with my reading tutoring business, like I have not had to put out any new videos for the last like 4 or 5 years. And I still have people finding me with the content, which is awesome because it doesn't go anywhere. People are still finding me and they're still hiring me because of it. They're landing on my webpage somehow. I'm not even sending people there. So the work that you do in now to create that footprint online will save you a ton of time later on when you are book solid, so that you don't have to spend as much time on any of this stuff, which is really what you ultimately want to be able to set up and be able to do. Now, today, what are some of your favorite video editing tools?
Absolutely. So I started out using Filmora video editor. Now that one, it has a free version, but the free version has a watermark. So you can't use it and put it up on YouTube, for example, because it's going to have a big Filmora watermark over it. But that's a really good one. And I think you can get a lifetime license for like $60. The claim to fame with Filmora is that it's very easy to use, but it has a huge effects library. So you can go, so like all the videos that we have on Ashley's channel, I used Filmora. And the value is really in those effects because motion effects and titles and stuff like that, those can really add a lot to the video. And the theory is that it gets people to stay engaged with the video. Because sometimes, especially if it's a talking head video and you're presenting kind of educational or specific information, that can sometimes be difficult to keep people's attention when, you know, you're watching it on your phone or you're busy, right? So having something, you know, a cool transition or a little motion, graphic fly across the screen, you know, can just kind of keep people's attention. So I really like that. The editor so I still use that, but the editor that I'm using right now is called DaVinci Resolve. And it is, it's one that started out kind of as something that the Hollywood editors would use for color correction to make sure that they're color grading their feature films really well. And as they went through, and the company makes cameras, so the editing software was kind of just a bonus. But lately they put out really, really good software. It's very powerful, but it has a very steep learning curve. And so, you know, but there is a free version with no watermark, which is great. So, you know, that's something that I like because I've gotten to a point with my editing where I can start to learn that and start to do the more advanced things that I was kind of bumping up against with Filmora. But I really like those two tools a lot. And then if you're ever into, you know, if you're thinking, okay, I do want to do video, I want to start getting on YouTube and whatever, a couple of resources to take a look at. There's a creator called Roberto Blake, and he's really great. And his whole thing is about YouTube and helping, you know, creative entrepreneurs. But he's got I think it's called Awesome Creator Academy. And it might be something that people could look into because it gives you kind of like a YouTube starter kit. So there's thumbnail templates, there's some videos. He does a lot of tutorials on his channel as well. So that can be really helpful. And then there's plenty of places out there too that you can find like sound effects. Sound effects are really great too. So a lot of the time you can just look them up on YouTube, but you got to be careful about copyright. So
yeah.
Yeah.
And you don't want to mess with the copyright when it comes to that. So definitely make sure that any of the videos that you have don't have any music that's copyrighted, any sound effects that are copyrighted. You want to keep all of that there, because they're looking for people that are creating fresh, new content. But they also have some resources. I mean, there are tons of resources out there where you can get those things like you're talking about.
Well, even in the YouTube creators,
does Filmora have like inside of it a place where you can get like the music and all the sound effects and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, it does. So the one with the license, but if you don't want to pay, get all of the effects, because they have like a subscription model for the effects store, so you can get like every single one of them, which is great and it's well worth it. But yes, it comes baked in with a few like royalty free music, and I think it has some sound effects. But the YouTube Creator Studio actually has a lot of that stuff. You can go in the back end and it's got a whole bunch of royalty free music. And
some still have that?
Well. Yep, they still have it. Absolutely.
Oh, okay. Because I know they got rid of their video editor they used to have.
Yeah, it's sort of back, but it's not as good, I don't think.
Okay.
And so that's a good place to go and get free music and or videos, sound effects that are copyright free. But there's a website out there called Epidemic Sound, and that's one that a lot of like the sort of big YouTubers use. And it's a subscription again, so I think it's like $15 a month or something. But it has just ungodly amounts of royalty free music and sound effects for all the different kinds of things that you could possibly want. So at some point, I wouldn't recommend getting into all of that right away, but at some point, if you're looking at the YouTube thing and you're just like, oh, I don't like any of this music, I don't want to have to pay to use, licensed music, that might be a place to go. Yeah,
for sure. Fantastic. Well, what are some of those like weird editing terms that tutors should be familiar with when they're creating their videos?
Yeah, so whether you're going to be doing the editing yourself or you're going to hire an editor, a couple of things you need to be aware of. One of the terms is FPS, or frames per second. And that's important because that's how many frames per second your camera is recording in. Many times, depending on the camera that you use, sometimes you can set it. A lot of webcams, for example, will record in like 60 frames per second or 30 frames per second. Most Hollywood features are done in 24 frames per second. But that's a term, FPS or frames per second, that will become important later, because if you start mixing clips with different frame rates, it can look really choppy and bad. So you have to consider that. Another term is resolution. So this is very important because if you're going to put video on YouTube, you have to do it in high def now. Like you can't do a 480p, which is an example, anymore if you really want people to take you seriously. So things like, if somebody asks you, well, what resolution is your video in? And you'll hear things like 4K, you'll hear things like 1080p, 720p, right? Those are the pixels. So 720p basically is your pixel ratio is like, I think 1280 by 720 pixels. And that's the lowest high definition that you can get. And then there's 1920 by 1080 is 1080p, which is 1900 pixels by 1080 pixels. So a lot of videos these days are shot in 1080p, which is sort of your high definition, and then frequently at 30 or 60 frames per second. So those will be things to know. And then there's a lot of other terminology, even simple ones like intro and outro.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you might not know what that is. An intro is just what it sounds like. It's the introduction to your video. But typically those can mean two different things, because on
Right.
YouTube, you might do your intro, which might be like, you know, if I was doing one for, you know, SD Tech tutorials, it'd be like, you know, hey, in this video, we're going to do, you know, the 5 tips to make OBS work for you for Facebook live streaming. Let's go.
Mm-hmm.
That would be the intro. But then I might have a actual motion intro that I put into the video, you know, that's a few seconds or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then outro is, again, the sort of the opposite. It's the out part of your video. And a lot of the time, if you're doing YouTube, you know, that consists of the typical, hey, you know, if you like this video, go ahead and like, subscribe, comment, share the video. And then you might have what's called an end screen, where, you know, you can use YouTube's tools to like put up other videos on your channel,
Right.
have your little channel icon that people can click on to subscribe. So those would be terms as well. And then I think, you know, like motion graphics would be one other thing that I would say you should be aware of, because that's just something like if a little, you know, lower third goes across the screen, or text goes across the screen, right? Or you have a little like visual effect that pops up on the screen. Especially if you're getting into editing, whether you're doing it yourself or you're talking to an editor, they may ask you about that, or you may have to consider, okay, do I want to put in motion graphics in my video, which I recommend. So yeah, so those are a few terms that I would be aware of for sure.
Yeah. What would, now I've seen some people who have done videos and they've gotten really excited about all of the amazing like extra little features that they can do in the editing process. And sometimes I feel like some people can get over excited with it, right? Like, and all of a sudden, like some of these effects are kind of taking over the video and the content really isn't there. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, that's a good question, because I've done that. I've had that happen to me a few times. And so, you know, the thing is, like, you got to look at, every video is telling a story, right? And so if the graphics and these elements help you to tell that story, then leave them in. If they don't, then take them out, right? But the other thing is, like, you don't have to worry about perfection out of the gate, right? If you create a video and you get really excited and you put in all these, you know, cool effects, and then you kind of watch it back 6 months later and you're like, oh yeah, I was really excited about that at the time, but ooh, maybe not. You don't do that in your next video. So it can be tough when you're first starting out, especially if you're getting excited because you've learned some of the software, you've learned, you know, oh, I can do this, or, oh, wow, this will make my thing look amazing. Don't worry about any of that. In the beginning, the very first thing you want to do is just get your video edited down to where it presents the information that you want to present in a good, you know, in a way that you feel good about. And then at that point, you can go back and you can look and say, do these things help enhance the story, enhance the experience, or do I just like them and they kind of look cool? Because, you know, sometimes they don't do a lot for the story, but it might be at that, let's say, 2 or 3 minute mark in your video, and you're thinking, oh, somebody might start to lose interest here. So I'm going to flash up a picture of children that I got from a stock art site, because at that point in the video, I'm talking about children, you know what I mean?
Right.
And so it's just something to kind of enhance the visual experience.
Right, because when you just have a talking head, people get a little bored with that. So you'll see, like, there's like something that says like every 7 to 10 seconds, you should actually be throwing something in to like change it. Whether you're moving it back, or you're moving it forward, or you're moving it off to the side, or different things you'll see on the very professional videos like that. We're not really trying to make those kind of professional videos off in the beginning, because we're just getting started. But take a look at analytics, because those are going to be some important. You're going to get important information from that. You'll be able to tell, when are people tapping out? When are people coming back in? When are people, what is keeping their attention? What's losing their attention? You can look at those analytics, be able to find that information out if you're inside of like YouTube.
Yeah, absolutely. And there, I mean, a couple of things too. Encourage engagement with your videos, right? Like you'll see whether it's, you know, educational related stuff or it's, you know, vlogs or whatever, right? The most successful YouTubers frequently are constantly engaging their audience, right?
Yeah.
Because people will watch your video for content, but they will subscribe to your channel for you, for the personality. So, you know, and obviously you don't want to be annoying about it, because if you're brand new and people don't know you, you know, sometimes it can be a little bit pretentious to immediately in your first video be like, subscribe, you know, whatever. But what you can do is throughout the video, if you're, let's say you're illustrating a concept, and then you can be like, hey, if you've ever done this, comment down below how that went. Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear about that. Or, hey, if you have a question about this, put it down in the comments below. Let me know, you know, and maybe I can do a video on it. Just trying to engage with your audience is huge. And I think unless you're specifically doing a presentation video in which the entire point is just to present information to somebody, which is fine, you have an opportunity to try to engage, and that's what keeps people watching your video, and that's what grows your channel, obviously. And then theoretically with the goal that it will then bring people to your paid services.
Yeah, absolutely. And so this is a perfect lead in. I want to know what questions you guys have. So type down any questions that you have about video editing right inside of there. And if you've liked the content that we've done, hit that little like button, hit that subscribe. And I'm going to take a little bit of a break to also mention you guys about this new awesome tool that we have that you're going to be able to win. All right. So anybody, this is all you have to do. Inside of the description is a link. You're going to hit that link so that you can fill out the raffle form. That's going to get your very first entry, okay? The second thing you need to do is hit subscribe on this channel. And the third thing that you need to do is start commenting on as many of the videos on this channel as you possibly can, because then you are going to get extra, everybody who's commenting, I'm putting in extra name inside of the drawing for you. So definitely do that. And if you haven't seen the video on what this beautiful little tool is, this is called the QHD document camera. What it does is you could take any manipulative that you currently have, or any book that you want to share, any worksheet you want to share. You can do that by just moving this on down, connecting it to your computer, and you can share it on your screen with your students. And it's so much fun. So if you didn't see the video where I shared how this thing works and how to set it up and how easy it is to set up, definitely take a look at that. You'll get to see me kind of fumble my way through it, and that was real. I was fumbling a bit, but that's how it works. Right?
Yep.
When you open something fresh out of a box, and that's what I did. I opened it up fresh out of the box. I had my daughter with we have invested in one of these tools. It's called a gimbal. And so we've invested in one of these. She was like taking different shots around here while I was recording inside of Zoom. And I put it together so you guys could see the whole full effect of what did it look like on, you know, from the computer side and then also from the other side. So definitely take a look at that so that you guys can check it out. See if it's something that you want to win. Lots of people are already thinking of a million different things that they can do with this tool, with their tutoring business. And if you're just getting started out and you're like, what webcam should I get? Definitely get this one because it's got a webcam on it. This is a webcam. It's a webcam, and then you can show all of your stuff. It easily just moves into the down position so that you can share anything that you want to use for teaching with your students. So lots of really great things that you guys can do with that. And Cynthia's excited. She's like, thank you so much for this great information, because she's a newbie in all of this and she appreciates that. So we are very grateful that you've had the opportunity to come on in and be able to join us today. So tell us, there are a few of us who just don't want to move into the world of editing a video. We're intrigued with the idea of how our videos can get out there in the world. But the whole idea of adding this extra tech on top of everything else that I have to learn, the marketing, running my business, tutoring online, all of that, I don't, you know, there's lots of people out there that are just like, I don't want to edit my video. what would be some benefits of them hiring somebody like you who could just edit their video for them?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of benefits, but the biggest one is time, right? You know, one of the things that we constantly talk about, me and Ashley, is, you know, she barely has time right now to just run her business, let alone create content and then edit content. And then, you know, and I've spent years digging through YouTube tutorials and doing courses and stuff because I find that interesting and I enjoy that, right? And so I could focus on that and specialize on that. But if you're somebody who you're like, man, I don't even know if I want to do videos, but you know, Joanne keeps saying it's important because it is, you know, but oh man, then I have to edit it too. One of the things that can happen is if you start to get discouraged, either at the prospect of how much time you're going to have to spend or struggling with the programs, sometimes that can lead you to not create content at all. And that's worse than creating sort of poor content, because the thing with poor content is whatever you put up content, it probably has some value. And even if it doesn't, eventually you're going to gain the experience by doing all of that, that you'll be able to create better and better stuff. So, you know, hiring an editor can obviously alleviate that time burden and the prospect of having to maybe learn something that maybe you're just not that interested in. But also it can sometimes get you to that professional level right out of the gate. Right? Yeah. And I kind of go back and forth with this when I'm advising people on video, because I don't ever want somebody to feel like, oh, I can't make content because I can't make it look professional. But at the same time, there is a difference between, say, if you're doing a travel vlog or a makeup tutorial videos, and you're kind of just doing it as a passion thing versus creating content to drive people to your business, right? Right. Because again, and I mentioned it earlier, unfortunately, sometimes with tutors, especially, what can happen is people, for whatever reason, can think of them as not professional, even though they kind of know that they are. There's this weird sort of disconnect. And so if you can come right out of the gate with a professional looking and sounding video, that's your first impression for a lot of people. So if they see that and they're like, oh, wow, that looks good, they know what they're doing. The information that they provided me is great. I want to see what else they have. You've got to step up on the competition, right? And then if you have somebody who is also able to, you know, let's say make a YouTube thumbnail for you, right? Is able to make some of the graphics, like, you know, like I have on my overlay here, like, you know, just some stuff that you might not be able to do or have the time to do. It's amazing how much value that can add. And in some cases, that's a one-time cost. You know, video editing obviously will be multiple, you know, because you're making multiple videos. But a lot of the time, if you're like, hey, I need a lower third, right? Or I need, you know, I want to be able to do this for my YouTube videos. You know, hey, can you create this cool little like motion graphic that we can then use in all of my videos? A lot of the time, that's worth its weight in gold. You pay for it one time and then you're like, yeah, just keep using that. Right. Yeah. So not having to dedicate the time to learning how to edit, not having to necessarily spend the money on editing software and possibly music and possibly motion graphic templates and possibly, you know what I mean? Like all this stuff that goes along with it. You know, I've already spent my money on that. So, you know, but that's an advantage, because that means that you can say to somebody, if you're hiring an editor, hey, you know, I really like the work you've done, or, hey, I really like this person's videos. Can we do something similar to that? Right. And a lot of the time, if you are doing it yourself, you kind of have to watch through all their content and you have to figure out, okay, what are they doing? What do I like? And then, oh boy, does my editor already have like a template built in? And if not, do I have to go out and find it? And then if I have to go find it, do I have to pay for it? And if I have to pay for it, how easy is it? You know, it can be a nightmare. So unless you're interested and you really want to do it, or you just simply don't have the budget to be able to pay for an editor, I highly recommend you offload that, you know, because it can be an incredible amount of time.
Yeah. Oh, yes. You're talking to someone who absolutely knows how much time I just spent yesterday. I think it was like about 2 hours, and I still wasn't happy with the end result of my video. And it was like, you know what? It's good enough. I got to the point where I was like, it's good enough. It's good enough. We're just now going to hit publish because it's good enough.
Right. Oh yeah, exactly. Well, and that's important too, because, you know, and I said it a few times, but don't ever let the pursuit of perfection prevent you from making the content. You know, I would always recommend that you put up an okay video, but that has valuable information in it or valuable content, then never put it up because you're like, oh, I don't like this word here, or, oh, I just don't like the way, you know, that transition happened. Like, just put it up and then get better later, you know?
Yeah. Yes, exactly. So, it will come with time, and you're going to learn as you go, and you're going to learn different ways, different tricks. And that's the beauty of hanging out with us, you guys, in our community, is you're going to continue to learn great tricks constantly throughout this group of things that you can do. So definitely stay plugged in with us, because we will help you get through those kinds of things, which is, you know, is absolutely priceless to be able to do. So I also want you guys to think about this other little piece, because, you know, money always comes into the cost of everything, right? But I want you to think about the cost of your time. So I had mentioned yesterday that I, you know, spent 2 hours, you know, cutting and editing a video, because honestly, I didn't feel like the people that I currently have doing it right now could have done it. And so I did it myself. But what is my time worth? My time is worth $75 an hour, because that's what I charge when I tutor. So it cost me $150 to get that video done. All right. So that's another way to be able to think about the money. I'm either going to pay myself the $75 an hour to do it, because I'm taking that time out of being able to work with other students or being able to be with my family by working on it. Or I can hire someone at that same amount or less to be able to help me with that piece. And so at the end of the day, you have to kind of weigh out and balance that of what's going to be a better fit. Now, Sam, I highly recommend that anybody who is watching this, that they definitely, you know, hire you, consult with you, they do coaching with you, because I think you have a plethora of information and have some great stuff and value to be able to share with people. How can they get in contact with you for that next step?
Absolutely. So right now, the best way to do that is through Facebook. Right up at the top of the overlay, I have my Facebook thing there. It's just at SD Tech Tutorials. And you can send me a message there. You can always tag me in the online support group that Joanne has, because, you know, I am in there as well. You can reach out to Ashley if you want to. Or you can email me right now. You can just use sam.dimercurio@gmail.com. I'm sort of fighting with the domain name and everything for the website. So until I get that all sorted out, probably Facebook will be the way to go. And I think most people are on Facebook anyway. So, you know, at least everybody who's watching this probably is, because they probably were in the group. But yeah, and you know, I do more than just the video editing too. So a lot of it is, you know, and you can see it on here. I've learned a lot over the years about content creation, about digital marketing, about live streaming, and about, you know, how to create content, video or otherwise, that can be valuable to your customers, right? And so that's something to really think about, because, you know, I had a call with, you know, one of the other tutors, and we were talking, and she had cut a video and whatever. And at one point I asked her, you know, do you want to do video? Do you think that your audience is going to be more receptive to video? Because what I was trying to get at was, are you going to put it off? Are you going to procrastinate? Because at the end of the day, if you're like, yeah, I know I need video, if you're never going to do it, then that's not a good strategy for your business. But if you're like, hey, I love to jump on Canva and make cool little like Instagram pics, that's an opportunity right there for you to go and do that as part of your business, you know? And so, that's something to think about, is reaching your audience where they are. And sometimes that's not video, although you really should try to do video if you can. You should try to do all of it, but focus on where your audience is, you know. And so, you know, that sort of business coaching, getting people set up with online streaming, marketing knowledge, you know, I can kind of help with all of that. So if you guys have any of that information that you need, if you have any good tips yourself that you've found work, let me know. You know, reach out to me and I'm always happy to help.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing your time. I know you do have another job where you work during the day, which is why I kind of pushed this a little bit later today. And we appreciate you taking the time to be able to do this and chat with us and all that great stuff. And I just can't say enough good things about the stuff that I've seen you do. And I highly recommend anybody who's like thinking like maybe I should get an editor. Don't think about it anymore. Just contact Sam and he'll guide you and help you out in that aspect. You guys got a lot of things to think about when you're running an online tutoring business. So, you know, if you want to take one of those things off of your plate and have somebody who can really make a spectacular video, help you make that spectacular video, he's definitely somebody to go with. So awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Again, you guys, don't forget about our camera that you're going to get the awesome opportunity to be able to win. If you haven't filled that out yet, fill it out. And the winners will be chosen on Valentine's Day. Yeah.
Don't listen to what she said, because I want to win that. So don't do it.
It is a really awesome tool. I'm loving playing with it. My students are loving me being able to just share my books and have them read and do that kind of stuff. I know Atol's students are loving that he's able to use the manipulatives with it. So it is definitely, I feel like it is the #1 online tutoring tool, like must have of 2019. So if you want to win it for free, definitely follow through on that. And thanks again, you guys, for joining us. We wouldn't even be here if it weren't for you. So thank you, Victoria and Cynthia and Ashley and Vanessa for showing on up. We appreciate you guys being here and commenting in the chat. It was wonderful getting to hang out with you guys, and we'll see you all next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.